Hi folks, welcome to the new CME Variety show. New idea that we're trying here. There's going to be lots of different things going on in each of these episodes, but of course please let us know what you think in the comments below. In our first episode, very exciting, we're going to be chatting about vintage Epiphones and the story of Epiphone itself. Also, we're going to be checking out a particular Fender finish which divides opinion, let's put it that way. And then we're going to be looking at probably the most famous chorus pedal of all time with Dan Lump. That's up for debate as well, so make sure you stay tuned.
Epiphone, an often misunderstood brand with a history just as storied as in Spears. It's a story with many chapters that continues to evolve to this very day. It's a story that reflects a passion for sound, design, and innovation. Epiphone was there to see the electrification and amplification of guitars. They were there to see the evolution of music through the 20th century, and they're still here today. From the forefront of instrumentation to bridging the gap between artistry and accessibility, Epiphone has no doubt earned its place in the annals of rock and roll history.
When you think of Epiphones, right, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
I think of a beginner guitar player.
Right, which that's a fair thing to arrive at because that's kind of, the name became synonymous with entry level or inexpensive Gibsons. But the reality is that their history is super interesting and it's not that at all.
Yeah, no, I only say that because obviously I'm much wiser now.
Yeah.
But when I was learning to play, like 13, 14, it was like, oh, Epiphone is like the cheaper version of Gibson, as Squier is the cheaper version of Fender. It's an entry level thing, but clearly it is not.
I'm glad you brought up Squier because let me ask you a question.
Go on then.
Which company do you think was founded first, Epiphone or Gibson?
I would have thought Gibson.
Which company do you think was founded first, Squier or Fender?
I would have thought Fender.
In both cases, you would be wrong, if you can believe that.
What, Squier was invented before Fender?
Well, not invented. So the company Squier, as an instrument-related manufacturer, was actually around before Fender was around.
Wow.
They made violin strings.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I had no idea. And what, the same with Epiphone?
Correct. Epiphone was founded by a Greek family.
Yeah, I remember that.
In Turkey.
Right.
Just to make things as confusing as possible.
Yeah.
In the late 1800s, before Orville Gibson started making instruments at all. And of course, none of these people started by making guitars. Guitars weren't really that popular back then, but they were in the business of making the instruments that were popular back then, like mandolins. And in fact, there was a point in time where if you were like a badass banjo shredder,
yeah,
the ultimate machine you could buy was an Epiphone banjo.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So I mean, there's some incredible models here, and I mean, Sheraton.
Yeah.
I mean, that's arguably the standout of the bunch that we've got here, right?
Yeah, out of all of these guitars here right now, I would say that that's the fanciest, the most, the highest in the pyramid that we have here right now. We've had a lot of amazing Epiphones here. And the cool thing about Epiphone is that before Gibson bought them, and before Gibson eventually, of course, bought the brand, right? And how that happened is kind of interesting. I've heard a couple different stories of how that happened. We'll go back to that later. But before Gibson bought Epiphone and Gibson were like, they were competing to get, to get the jazz players to play their guitars. And so, Gibson would come out with a huge bout, very loud, beautifully ornate, jazz guitar, and there would be Epiphone right next to them with their own version of a giant bout, awesome jazz guitar. Whether it has, pickups in it or not, they were neck and neck making really, really great instruments in that era.
I mean, what are some of the highest end Epiphones out there?
Some of the highest end ones would be like the Emperor or I forget what the names are right now, but the equivalent to, for example, the Gibson ES5 or the Switchmaster that had 3 P90s with all the switches and all that. Epiphone made their version, and it was more ornate and more like fancy.
Really?
And yeah, I think
it was along here, the 3-switch thing, wasn't it? Yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
I remember we had one of them.
Yeah, that's a really fancy Epiphone. I really love the early coronets that are slab-bodied, double-cut, like Les Paul special killers, that kind of thing.
Is that what they were kind of intended to be?
They were definitely, again, competing with each other, and somebody would come out with this, and they would have an answer to that. And very typical in this industry, a bunch of people were making similar things to compete for the market. But there are so many models. Actually, that's why I brought this book, because not only is this book a great price guide, but it's such a great resource. In fact, I think there's a video where I was naming all these different models and you had to fast forward through them because there's so many. You may get ready to do that again. Naturally, there's hundreds of models that just mirror the Gibson model these days. The AJ Masterbuilt, the Ellicat, the BB King Lucille, the Barcelona, the Barcelone, the Bard 12-string, the Beverly, the Biscuit.
The Biscuit.
The Biscuit.
The Epiphone Biscuit.
Yes. The Epiphone Blackstone. Very cool guitar, by the way. We should look up pictures of that. Beautiful instrument, yeah. The Blues Hawk, the Broadway Regent. Oh, the Regent is one of the ones too. The Byron, the Alcaiola had a signature. Have you ever seen that before?
No.
That's a cool guitar with a bunch of switches on it. That actually has this big old cable that goes to an Epiphone amplifier. And the amplifier only has one knob, an on button. And I think it's a master volume, or maybe just an on button, and everything else is controlled on the guitar.
That's kind of cool.
But the electronics are in the amp, but they're controlled out of the guitar. The Casino, of course. The Casino is probably, there it is, there's the Casino right there.
Great
probably, arguably the most famous, Epiphone model because of that little band called the Beatles.
It probably is the most famous, right?
Century, the Cornet, the Collegiate, the Crestwood. The Crestwood Custom. It's a beautiful instrument.
I can't picture that.
Also kind of a coronet looking thing, but more ornate. Look at that, Emperor Acoustic Archtop, 1935 to 1939. If you can find a natural one, $10,000 to $13,000.
Oh, wow.
Texan, of course, is arguably the other most famous model of theirs because, again, also because of the Beatles. It was a guitar that was used quite a bit, an acoustic guitar that was used quite a bit by the Beatles. The Granadas are really cool. We have a couple right here.
I love these. Yeah. Anytime these come into the shop, I absolutely love playing them.
And this is a perfect example of Gibson doing their thing. I mean, Gibson makes the ES120T is this exact guitar. So this same guard, both made in Kalamazoo, made by the same people, just slightly different. Obviously, the Epiphone headstock, white molded guard instead of the black ones on the Gibson. Same pickup, same everything.
And I honestly, I love playing these things when they come in.
They're really fun, beautiful, you know, thin but fully hollow guitars.
Yeah.
Single pick. I mean, you would think they only do one thing, but they're pretty versatile. That's
Definitely.
kind of up to the player, really.
Yeah.
Arguably, the most famous Gibson model is what?
Les Paul.
The Les Paul, right?
Yeah.
The Les Paul is obviously named after the man, the legend, the marvelous musician, right?
Yeah.
What did he play before they made the Les Paul, before Gibson made the Les Paul?
Well, I'm going to guess it was an Epiphone.
He was an Epiphone player.
But I didn't know that.
Primarily, yeah. He was primarily an Epiphone player, and you know about the log, right? The famous electrified guitar contraption where he had two wings of a hollow body that would attach to a center piece of wood that had pickups on it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Do you know what kind of guitar that was?
I can't remember. I remember it wasn't a nice looking thing.
It's an Epiphone.
But it wasn't nice looking, right?
Well, he cut it up, and yeah, it was a science experiment.
That's why I'm thinking it wasn't pleasant to look at.
So when he approached Gibson and was like, "Hey, you guys have to. This is serious stuff. You got to electrify your instrument, and the future is electric, man."
Yeah.
He had an Epiphone that he was showing them.
I didn't know.
And this was way before they owned Epiphone.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of an interesting intertwining of the stories.
Yeah.
It's just so crazy to think about that. Les Paul approaches Gibson and says, "Look at this." And what he was showing them was an Epiphone.
Yeah.
And down the road, they end up owning Epiphone and making the Les Paul model.
That's mad, isn't it?
It can be argued that the Les Paul as a model exists because Epiphone existed before that.
What was it?
Yeah, we're going to get some hate for that. But anyway.
Well, the way you explained it makes sense.
Who knows, right?
Who knows?
Who knows, yeah.
Hey, it can be argued, right?
We have two really interesting
This
guitars
is great.
side by side here that are definitely kind of the what I consider the middle era of Epiphone, which is when they started to make them in Japan. And some of those guitars, specifically that guitar is incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, I want that guitar.
Yeah. I'd love it as well.
Yeah, it's such a great instrument. And I really think that the new Epiphones these days is kind of bringing back that quality at that lower price. And what you get for the money is unreal.
Yeah.
Unreal.
One of the standouts, I think, in this whole kind of
I think in the whole company. It's crazy to say, but as an instrument, just as the way it plays and feels, that rivals some custom shops. They're not all like that.
Yeah.
They're definitely not all like that. And in terms of consistency, the higher end stuff is more consistently better from one to another. But this one just ended up being great.
But now, is it rare to come across one of these made in Japan ones from this type of era?
Very rare, yeah.
Oh, really?
It's not that common here, at least. Maybe in Japan there's more floating around.
Right. Okay.
But especially in black like this, it's just so cool to find one like that.
It does look
in
great.
such a ridiculously clean condition.
Yeah.
guitars have had so many different lives and so come back and gone away, and in so many different ways. So Epiphone has this complex history. Some of these models especially have these super complex histories, and there's so many versions of them floating around. And then some of them like died. For example, these guitars are amazing, but after that initial Kalamazoo run, after they were discontinued, that's it. They were never around again.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I mean, so there's not, well, obviously there must be a fair few of them lying about, but when they're gone, they're kind of gone.
They're gone, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, that's why they will continue to go up in price, because there'll be less and less of them around, for sure.
I don't know, maybe I should try and buy one whilst I can.
You should, we have two right now.
They're not actually that expensive, really.
They're not that expensive, no. They're very it's a very affordable way to get into a truly vintage, Kalamazoo, Gibson product.
I love them things.
Yeah. So yeah, Epiphones, they're awesome. I really love them. On that note, if anybody has an Epiphone that you want to sell, or a vintage guitar of any kind you want to sell, let us know. We love these things. We buy, trade, consign, whatever. We'll figure it out. Collections, a single piece, whatever. We're here.
Waiting.
Waiting
for that call.
I'm going to sit on this chair and wait until somebody calls with an Epiphone for sale.
Well, whilst you're waiting, like and subscribe.
Well done.
Yeah, we got it.
Smooth.
3 weeks later.
So a few weeks back, we shot the Epiphone segment that you just watched for the Variety show. This just came in recently, so we're going to do a quick video of this. There's lots of knobs on it. So, what that knob do? There's no knobs on the amp apart from the standby and the on switch. They're actually controlled from here. There's a lot going on here. We've got tone expressors. It's kind of like a baritone. Really. Kind of cool just doing that, to be honest. Very nasally. I mean, that's kind of cool. So all on one, or all down towards the floor. Kind of cool. Now, reverb. So as you can tell, no reverb on at the moment. I flick the reverb switch, turn the reverb up to 10. That's kind of cool. Very cool. I do like that. I don't know what this does, I'll be honest. I've tried figuring it out the past couple of minutes. I don't know. We've got the volume here, we've got the tone. So easy enough. It does have built-in trem. It's a good noise, isn't it? Hang on. So reverb on 10. Now we've got two controls for the tremolo frequency. That's it. Let's bring that down to 2. It's kind of cool. All the way to 10. Depth as well. Let's just do that on 10. That's kind of cool. I was playing someone earlier. Evan was a big fan. I mean, that sounds really good. You like that, right?
It's beautiful, dude.
I mean, it's really cool, to be quite honest. Kind of impractical at times, I'll be honest. Now, there was different versions of amps. Daniel informed me. I think this is obviously one of the smaller, less kind of output ones, but a very, very unique instrument. Again, still unsure as to what that does, but I will say the reverb and trem in this does sound really good. I'm a big fan of that. I mean, again, just... Really nice. Do like that. So make sure you come and check it out. This is very rare, and rare to have it in such good condition as well. I mean, look at that as well. How crazy is that? So this is, do you know what I mean? Can I actually unscrew this? Yeah. Well, can I? Oh, yeah, look. So look.
Twist.
Twist this top part. Do I just yank it out now?
Pull, yep.
No, not yet. 12 minutes later. Here. Look at that. That's what we're plugged into. Now it does obviously have a regular input.
Then you just have a bunch of switches that don't do anything.
Yeah.
On your guitar.
Just crazy. But yeah, very cool combo, very rare, odd. It does sound pretty good though, I will say that, you know. That's a bit messed up, don't it? Look at that. So thanks to Daniel Escariza there. I feel like we've gone over the history of Epiphone before, but it's a great story and it was nice to be reminded of it again. So thank you, Daniel. Next, I'm going to meet another Daniel Albert, and we're going to be chatting about the Fender Antigua finish. So this is interesting. So have a look at this. Let us know your thoughts on Antigua as well. Let us know in the comments. We have got some very interesting guitars. We have got Antigua guitars.
Yeah, first of all, are you okay?
Yeah, we'll see, I suppose.
Yeah?
You're gonna convince me, right?
Yeah. I don't know if you can convince people of Antigua,
Yeah.
but
So obviously it kind of divides opinion.
yeah.
I will say that the black pickups and the black tone knobs and all that, it looks quite sharp.
Squier decided to do this as a European run, these four.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to say right now, this was my idea that we eventually didn't go with.
Right.
And so they picked it up and they were like, okay, we'll do that and we'll do the rest of the ones as well.
Wait, they took your idea?
I'm glad they did, because we were like, I don't know if we can sell that many. And then, I mean, you've seen the pre-order numbers. They're absurd.
Yeah. So I mean, essentially, obviously this finish and color kind of divides opinion.
Yeah,
You know, It's a kind of a Marmite thing.
Yeah,
going on.
and I mean, it is a historic color. I think that's sometimes forgotten. When Fender was first doing the Coronado, that was a guitar that had binding on it, and the way that they applied the binding, they actually kind of burnt the finish around there.
Right.
So rather than just kind of have to go back to the drawing board, they just decided, you know what, let's try to spray this puke green or whatever color you want to call it. It's almost like a very light olive on some instruments. It's more of a gray on others, or like a green gray. But for the most part, they fixed that problem and then decided to paint that color on a lot of other instruments as well.
Yeah.
Still relatively short-lived, but an interesting part of Fender's history for sure.
Yeah. Now, these, I believe, are already pre-orders, right?
Yeah, we are the exclusive US dealer of them. They're available for pre-order. A lot of the first shipments are already sold through. So if anybody's really wanting to get one, I would pre-order sooner rather than later, because it appears to be like a one-time thing.
What's the difference with the one you've got in your hands?
So this one is actually made in Ensenada in Mexico. So this is a 70th anniversary Antigua Stratocaster. This is for the 2024 70th anniversary of the Strat. I mean, first of all, hardtail, which I love, and is very kind of characteristic of the 70s Strat. And obviously, a lot of Antigua guitars have maple boards, both vintage and all four of these guys. But they did put rosewood on this one with the larger kind of post-CBS dots. So just kind of a cool look. And you got your big headstock and the more 70s oriented logo.
These are obviously going to be on the floor for people to check out.
Yeah, even though they're pre-orders, we'll have these out for anybody who wants to give them a whirl. And the 70th anniversary Ventera 2 Antigua Stratocaster is available, ready to go. Could be this one, could be the other one. If you want the one with my
DNA and, you know, both
DNA
sweat and tears on
and
it.
skills, you're going to want serial number ending in 861.
861, folks. Come get it. That's the one, right? Thank you, Daniel Albert, chatting about all things Antigua. Lots of great history there and unique guitars, let's put it that way. Make sure you come and check them out, folks. Now, from Daniel Escarizas to Daniel Albert to another Dan Lump, we are going to be chatting about arguably the greatest chorus pedal of all time, the one that started off maybe. So check it out, the Chorus CE1.
What's up, everybody? This is Dan from Chicago Music Exchange, one of the vintage buyers here. CE1 is one of my favorite pedals. This is my personal one here, and just want to talk a little bit more about it because it's such a cool effect and piece of Boss history. So the CE1 is one of the first pedals to be released under the Boss brand. It's released in 1976 and is technically the first Bucket Brigade pedal ever released. The Electro Harmonics Memory Man came out the same year, but this circuit is based on the chorus from the JC120, which came out a year before. So on a technicality, it's the first BBD device. It was part of their compact pedal series, which it is anything but you know, for the day. So it's been used by dozens of artists on hundreds of songs, albums. Pretty much anyone you can think of that was playing back in those days used one of these. Big ones are John Frusciante, Brian May, Andy Summers. I mean, the list is extensive. One unique thing about it is it was actually designed to be used with both guitar and keyboard, which is what this switch here is for. It's high and low impedance. This one has actually been modified by Analog Man to be a little bit more friendly with guitar specifically. So the only thing he does is he changes the input impedance to be a little bit more friendly to a guitar signal and reduces the input gain a little bit because these have a preamp in them that when you overload it kind of distorts. So despite its huge size, there's actually only one control for the chorus, which is this one here, and this controls both the rate and the depth simultaneously. On the other side you have separate controls for rate and depth on the vibrato, which if you run in stereo, recreates the exact same signal path you would get with the JC120, except you run to 2 amps instead of just the stereo speaker setup. Alright, so just running through the single chorus control, run through the rate and depth. So as you can hear, as it gets faster, it also gets deeper. The other unique thing about this pedal, kind of what makes it special, is unlike most chorus pedals which modulate the signal in a smooth sine wave, the CE1 is more of a triangle wave. So instead of you hearing it kind of sweep the frequency, it's just jumping up and down. And the other unusual part is it's not an exact like amplitude. So it's not always jumping from the same frequency to the same frequency. It's kind of a little up and down. And that imperfection, in my mind, is what gives it such a great, unique sound that I really haven't been able to find in a new pedal. You can get close, for sure. The CE2W does great. There's a few other options. But to really nail that sound, if this is what you want, this is kind of what you have to get. And on the vibrato side, you have separate controls for speed and depth. So running through that sounds like this. In my mind, one of the most legendary pedals ever made, and for me personally, the best chorus pedal ever made. Like I said, I haven't looked at another chorus pedal since I bought this one. If you're looking to find one, they are out there. They are expensive, they are big, they do plug straight into the wall, and they're inconvenient. But the sound is unparalleled. Now, you could just buy a jazz chorus. The new ones do have a different chorus circuit in it, but the old ones honestly probably go for around the same price as the pedal itself.
You get an amp too.
Yeah. So it goes for about the same price as the pedal itself, and it comes with an amp. The benefit of the pedal is you can use it with whatever rig you have, and you can run it in stereo to 2 different amps, so you get a wider chorus sound.
So that's it, folks. That is our first episode of the CME Variety Show. We hope you enjoyed it. Please let us know what you thought of it in the comments, and also what you would like to see in the show going forward. You know, it could be anything. So please don't be shy. Let us know. We really do appreciate all the feedback, and we'll see you next time.